telling you what, it's a sickness. Even though they're completely worthless, I cannot help but pick up these roadkill OEM systems like this. This is pretty old. Picked it up today for some money. Probably about 4 times what it's worth, but let's see if I can get this tag off. This is a dx2300 micro tower. Wow, did I call that or what? I was just thinking to myself off camera here that this is probably something like an E2160 or an E2180. Look at that, E2160. 1-year warranty across the board. Really the only reason why I picked this up, let me take a look at it here. It's a very crappy power supply indeed, but it doesn't look too bad in the grand scheme of things. But the reason why I picked it up is because it still has both hard drives installed. There were 2 of these. I wasn't about to give $40 for what are otherwise completely junk computers, but you see, it's new enough to be PCI Express, so at least it's got that going for it. It's only got 1 PCI slot though. Not that it probably matters, and only 2 RAM slots. It's an MSI motherboard. Kind of interesting to see that in HP, but I think they were pretty steadfast users of MSI boards after their fascination with Asus ran out. If I read the sticker on the top correctly, I tried to read the sticker on those hard drives. It wasn't very difficult, or sorry, it wasn't very easy to do, but I think those are both 80 gig hard drives, and they're probably both factory, if I had to guess. So, being as though this has a PCI slot, and it looks like there's nothing really infringing on it that would cause problems if I were to put like a PCI X card in there. This might end up being a replacement, once I look up what the TDP of that chip is, this might end up being a replacement for my network time protocol server, because I'd like to give that something that doesn't need, or isn't going to draw a whole lot of power. But the first thing that's going to have to go is this. Look at this piece of crap. Now these aren't as bad as the ATX 250-12Es were. Those were the bad ones. But these aren't great either, and they're not very good power supplies, even at the best of times, irrespective of that. I mean, they're honestly rated at 250 watts, but I think I can do better than that, so I'm going to pull that out. Unfortunately, I don't have anything that's overly good, because I had a Coolmax that had 80 plus certification sitting around, and I guess I've got that, but that's got way too much extra wiring on it. I thought about putting that in there, but those are not very good either. I have this 400 watt Cooler Master power supply. I'm not really sure that it's really rated to put out 400 watts either, but you know, low power and all that, it'll probably be just fine for this, and it's got the big fan on it, and that's nice to have, as opposed to these things down here, which I believe these have a fan speed control circuit on it that doesn't work. But even still, with the fan control, they're still very loud. You have to forgive the noise. The neighbors having HVAC work done, and I guess they haven't finished destroying whatever it is they were destroying earlier, so. Anyway, let me switch out that power supply, and then we'll get the computer on the bench, take a look at it, and see what it can do, if anything. Honestly, it almost looks kind of weird without a power supply with a rear-facing fan. But if it helps the longevity, it helps the longevity. It'll be better than that thing. Of course, I'm going to want to replace all these screws too, because, you know, it's HP. They've got to use these stupid Torx screws. Some people actually like them, which I find hard to believe. Personally, I wish that the inventor of those would get flung into the outer bands of the Kuiper belt, and then these screws should be banned. I'll leave the hard drives for now, because I'm kind of curious what's on them, if anything. And I'm also curious if the system works, because this could have just been an entire waste of time. And if the system's dead, that might be it for the whole thing, because you'd have to do case modding in order to replace this board. Although you might be able to find something that fits that. roughly. It's a pretty standard layout, but the problem is those ports are shifted, usually depending on the board, so that you can only use the correct, if you want to call it that, I/O plate. But it looks like they thought about putting different board in here. It does have the placement for the standoffs. Okay, here it is. Is this fan actually any good? This rear case fan? Yeah. At least it turns freely. Same thing with CPU fan. I'm using a USB keyboard because my PS2 keyboard is buried at the moment underneath all that junk. But I'm using a PS2 mouse because my USB mouse is extremely junky. Did it turn off? It's on again. Hey, it works. And boy, is that loud. I hope that those fans slow down in operation. What do we got? Yep, E2160. This is a standard BIOS. I'm kind of surprised to see that. Oh, yeah, I think the fans are slowing down now. So that's good. I should probably blow this out with the air compressor, but whatever. It even gives me the MAC address. How convenient. Well, the battery is somewhat good. It's not totally bad. Indeed, those are two 80GB hard drives. It thinks there's a floppy installed, which there isn't. Unless there is and I just don't see it. Does this have IDE on it? Well, it does have a floppy. No, there's no IDE on this system. Well, there you go. Well, I'll set this up to my liking here, and then we'll see if it boots into anything. Here's a look at the health check here. The 12 volts a little high at 12.5, but I think it'll live at that level. Same thing with the 5 volt standby, that's a little high. But it looks like the battery is in fact good, assuming that's actually valid. Boot from CD. Resuming Windows. Well, at least it's Windows 7 and not Windows 10 or some similarly awful thing. And yes, that's what I said, and yes, it's what I meant. Just because Windows 11 sucks harder doesn't mean that Windows 10 sucks any less. What's in that hard drive thrash? I didn't think to check how much RAM this had in it. I just heard the business audio speaker. And I also don't think I typed all that. Well, what's the worst that can happen, right? Yeah, I didn't think so. So I can't use the mouse. That's creative. I don't know why the PS2 mouse isn't working. What other user accounts do I get on this? If I had more time, I'd just run the anti-password eraser on it. But, yeah, I don't know. This is really slow. At least that was a little faster. Still can't use my PS2 mouse. Oh, that is the only user account. I must restart my computer, apparently. Nope. While we're in, even though I said I wasn't going to reset the password, I just went ahead and did it. In the process, discovered that there was actually a disk in the optical drive. Nothing particularly interesting, though. Just a Roxio USB video capture thing. I'm not sure what they would have been doing with this system, other than, well, video capture, duh, but, you know, for what reason? I suppose we may never know unless there happens to be something in the history on any of these browsers that are here, because we got Firefox and Google Chrome. There's this thing called Immunet. I have no idea what that is. I wonder if the shortcut gives anything away. Of course, this computer is slower than molasses, so I have no idea. I mean, it must be an antivirus. I'm sure it works real well. Ugh, look at that last scan date. So yeah, this thing hasn't been used in a long time. Whoops. Oh, noes! Whatever are we going to do about that? Well, I don't really care that much. Back to this thing. Microsoft Excreta is right there, so they've obviously installed that. Roxio Creator, Tor browser. So this thing's probably been used for some kind of illegal something, which would bear this out, certainly. Internet Explorer troubleshooting, which is there for some reason. What other programs do we have on here? Nope, that's it. So, what do we got here? Well, it's not a bone stock installation, but there's not a whole lot of user data left behind there. We've also got a new volume with some program files on it. Interactual. iPlayer. Wonder if that actually works. View messages in Action Center. Does this have a recently viewed on it? It's one of these programs that's got its own user interface. I really thought those would have died in the days of Windows Millennium, but I guess they didn't. DVD decoder required. Is there a list of like things that have recently been opened with this? Oh, I just clicked on a lightning bolt. I don't know what that did. Obviously didn't work. And it's not going to because it wants me to connect to the internet, which I'm not doing. It's a DVD player, so that's pretty useless. Looks like that's the only thing it can do. And of course, this Roxio thing is there. I'm not sure why they felt the need to have a second hard drive just for that. Just that apparently they did. Is there anything like good on this? Data-wise? Nope, not particularly. There's nothing in the documents folder. No pictures. They didn't even leave me any music behind. Bunch of jerks. So, well, let's do the incredibly professional thing of opening up a web browser and assuming it's not going to do something nefarious on the video. I suppose if the video shuts off, you'll know what happened. Well, let's see. Where's the history on this browser? History. Nothing in there. Nothing in there. So, was it just never used? I guess it must just have never been used. Okay. Move to Firefox. Google Chrome. Can't update. Who cares? No, there's nothing in the history on that either. So it looks like, I don't know. Do we open it? I have no idea why they decided to use this. Nor how it works. Wonder if they got scammed with some kind of ransomware or something. Click connect to Tor. Well, that's not really going to work. I don't think. If I hit connect, what does it do? Yeah, of course it fails. No route to host. So I guess we're just never going to know what this computer was used for because there's nothing interesting left behind. Really not much of anything left behind. So home theater. I mean, that would make sense if it's got a DVD program on it. But I don't know why they would have wanted to use that for this, or use this for that. You must activate today, it says. No, I'm not going to activate ever. So yeah, here we go. There's your Windows Experience Index scores if you want to know. I do, like I said, I have a practical purpose in mind for this, which we'll probably visit at some point, but for right now, I'm just going to do what should have been done to start with. Go into this, reset, if it will actually do it. Could just hard power it, because this is going to take a while. No, maybe not. Interestingly, for a consumer grade system or such a crappy system, it does have the built-in business audio speaker. Maybe that's why they wanted to use it as a home theater computer. I don't know. I would have aimed a little bit higher up in the food chain than an E2160. But, I mean, if it's what's laying around, it's what's laying around, I guess. I mean, if you've got something that does not demand a whole lot of CPU resources, like, say, for example, a print server, it'd be great for that. And if you wondered, is that what he's going to use that for? You'd be absolutely right. I'm going to replace that Dell Optiplex 790 with this. But again, I'll do that when I'm good and feeling like it. And I think the problem with that methodology is that this is set up like this. Alright. With those screws set up like this. I don't know if that... the drive that's in there, although I think it's a hard drive. I don't know if that's set up correctly. But like I said, we're going to do what should have been done to start with. Now, I have designs on potentially reusing these. So I suppose I don't have to go too crazy on the boot and nuke, but like I said, we're going to do what should have been done to start with. I guess you could call this a postscript, or a wrap-up, or something. I don't even know what you'd really call it. I wasn't going to include it in this video originally, but I figure it's not really worth making another video about, so we might as well. I'm going to replace this, even though I just put this here. And I think what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to take a look at some thermal design figures, but I think I'm going to use this to replace this, which right now has got a 3770 in it. It's kind of a waste. 3770 and 16 gigabytes of memory is kind of overkill for what I'm doing with this. And I think this would be just fine for that. But this is a print server, and print server, it might be useful to have a parallel port. So I'm going to put that here, and again, I'll check thermal design figures and see if this is any better than this. I don't think it is, because I think this is 95 and this is like 77 or something similar, but I'll take a look. Before I do any of that, because I know I'm going to replace this, remind me later, we will go ahead and power this one down. Okay, so I just did an entire clip of video without realizing that the camera was turned off. Oops. So anyway, suffice it to say, I wanted to do a comparison of the power usage. But I forgot to do that before tearing the old machine apart. So I put it back, and I checked on this thing, and even though it's not a definitive test, and this probably says something completely different now, but yeah, 531 was the number I was looking at before. It was at 585 with this 0.585, 0 point, you know what I mean. So there's no added efficiencies here. We're just going basically from a 95 watt to a 65 watt TDP CPU. But I added a hard drive, so that might negate basically any savings that we got. And this may or may not even work. I anticipate the computer will not turn on because I replaced the battery. in a second here. I do want to go into setup. It's F10. It'll ask me to change all the settings, I'm sure, here in a second. So I'll do that. Okay. This should boot now. Hopefully into Linux. But it'll probably boot into whatever crap is on the second hard drive. Because I'm sure Linux installed in UE5 mode or something equally as dumb. Well, it's doing something. I don't know if that something is useful, but I should change this to an SSD. Of course, my choice of computer makes that more difficult because of the way that these drives are installed in here. I'll have to put the side cover back on. Wow, look at that video. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Let me put the cover back on this. Okay, well, it's up. I don't know if we really saved anything in terms of power, though. Well, of course it decides to turn off right when I get the camera pointed at it. It says 558 now, but I've seen that get up to 585. So, I don't know, would have been better. I own a kilowatt meter. It probably would have been better to just do this test with one of those and get more accurate results, but whatever. The computer works. 2 gigs. Might have to see if I can upgrade that. Yeah, this has, I think this has got 8 gigabytes on it, and since this board's got some problems, I may just go ahead and take the RAM off of this. Yeah, that's hard to read, but even with lighting, 2 gig. So I could probably just take the RAM off of that and put it on here, but that's a future thing. Right now the computer's running, it's good enough for me. So thanks for watching, and if you've got any comments, feel free to leave them below.